everyone.
Good evening.
Yes,
How come you're not in the chamber today, everyone? It's just me and Mr. Warren.
I have a good excuse.
I wasn't talking to you,
Rick,
Mr.
what's your
Mr. Chair.
excuse?
I'm prepping for a colonoscopy at 8 in the morning.
Ah. Birthday present, Rick?
Good way to start Passover.
Yeah, you're gonna be cleaned out. It is a good way to start Passover, actually. It's just right.
That's right.
Whenever you're
That
ready,
muscle's
Mr.
gonna go
Chair.
down so smooth right now, you're not gonna have any issues.
I'm ready for the chopped liver.
Hey, Chris and I can relate. We just went through this recently too, so we sympathize.
yeah.
Where you guys went together, was it a 2-for-1 plan?
No, Chris went first, and then I went second, and now Rick.
You do have two people in the chamber who are not me and the clerk, okay? So just to give you a heads up.
You know, public officials' private lives are, open books. So
And if you live long enough, all this stuff happens to you anyway. So it's just get used to it.
I'm going to stay young forever.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
Okay, let's do this. Let's do this.
Recording in progress.
All right, welcome everybody. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Land Use Committee of the Newton City Council. Present at the beginning of the meeting from the committee, I'm the chair, Rick Lipoff. We have the vice chair, Andrea Kelly, and other committee members, councilors Mark Laredo, Chris Markowitz, Andrea Downs, Councilor Maria Greenberg, and I think that's everybody so far. From planning, we have Michael Gleba, Katie Wewell. We have from the law department, Jonah Temple. I think we have everybody. Okay. First item of the night is 91-23, Joseph and Kelly Rogers, request to amend special permit 175-15 to allow for construction of dormers, which will further increase non-conforming FAR at 12 Lake Terrace. Who is here to present?
Hi, my name is Jonathan Chase, the architect representing the owners of 12 Lake Terrace.
Okay, Mr. Chase, I think we're going to go to Mr. Gleba first. We'll hear from planning and then you can fill in the blanks if any, okay?
Sure.
Go ahead, Mr. Gleba.
All right, I'm sharing my screen. Okay, so yes, okay, so this is a special permit request to amend special permit 178-15 and to further extend the non-conforming FAR. The special permit in 2015 was to allow the construction of a one-story, one-car attached garage. So the reason why this needs relief is, and we'll get into the design in a moment. It needs approval to further extend the non-conforming FAR. In 2015, the special permit request was miscalculated as 0.46. You see the square footage there, about 5,590 feet, rather than what was actually built, which was 0.49, which is 5,589 square feet. So that extends the maximum 0.33 allowed by right, about 3,800 square feet, as well as at 0.46, which was allowed by the 2015 special permit. We will note that the dormers that are proposed in this plan would only add 74 square feet, and the FAR, because it's rounded, would remain at the current 0.49. So the criteria for the council to consider is as shown, whether the proposed expanded structure with an FAR of 0.49 is consistent with and not in derogation of the size, scale, and design of other structures in the neighborhood, whether that expanded structure would not be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming uses to the neighborhood, whether the specific site is an appropriate location for the proposed single-family home expanded with 2 dormers and a floor area ratio of 0.49, whether it would adversely affect the neighborhood, create a serious nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians, and whether access to the site over the street is appropriate for the types and numbers of vehicles involved. Here we see the site in blue on Crystal Lake at the end of Lake Terrace. Again in blue. Here's the site plan. Going closer up, there is no change to the footprint proposed by this plan, since all the work is at the attic level. This does reflect the previous work from the 2015 special permit. So we have the elevations here. There's 2 sets of what's called Nantucket style dormers being proposed for the roof. On the rear and the east side, the existing elevations are shown on the left, and the proposed dormers shown on the right, circled in red, for each of those 2 elevations. Just for some context, just some photos, actually 1 photo of the home from the street. Neither of the proposed dormers would be seen here, and they would be of a style similar to the existing one on the front of the house now, but not exact. That's all we have for now, and hopefully can answer any questions the committee might have.
Okay, thank you very much. So the just to reiterate, there's the dormers they're asking for, and fixing a calculation that was slightly off in the original special permit that sometimes happens. Okay, Mr. Chase, do you have anything to add to that?
No, that was great. I have additional pictures of the 2 facades that will be affected if you felt like that would be helpful to see. But otherwise, I think that was well summarized.
Great. I think it's pretty straightforward, and the proposed plans that we took a look at, I think are pretty straightforward. I don't think we need to see any more photos.
Great.
Is there anybody here from the public that wishes to speak on this petition? If so, raise your hand. I see nobody. Counselors, anybody with questions, comments? No, pretty straightforward. Anybody have a motion?
I'm happy to move closing the public hearing
Okay.
and move approval.
Motion to close the public hearing by Councilor Bowman. Mr. Gleba, can we take a look at a council order? Okay, the findings reiterate what Mr. Gleba was speaking of before. Everybody good?
Wish I can move on to the conditions.
Yep, go ahead.
Again,
Standard.
there'll be language to amend the special permit, and then the standard conditions for plan, building permit condition, and inspection CO.
Great, thank you. We have a
Mr.
motion.
Gleba, hold on, Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Gleba, can you go back 1 page?
Sure.
Where you have in the second paragraph, or in the first 2 paragraphs, where 0.34 is the maximum FAR allowed by right. I just want to clarify, in the planning memo, you have 0.33. Just want to make sure which is the right one.
Okay, well, just make sure to have the right one in the audit. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thanks, that's all.
All right, we have a motion to approve. Mr. Warren, please call the roll.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Counselor Bowman,
Aye.
Counselor Downs,
Aye.
Counselor Greenberg,
Aye.
Counselor Kelly,
Aye.
Counselor Laredo,
Aye.
Counselor Lipoff,
Aye.
Counselor Lucas,
Aye.
Counselor Markowitz.
Aye.
The motion carries.
Can I
Great.
just say, we had a motion to close the public hearing, but we didn't vote on that?
I thought no, we didn't say all in favor, say aye.
Correct. Well, the clerk can confirm that, but I think Counselor Bowman made the motion, but we moved on to the,
Oh, you're right, because
Conditions.
Counselor Lucas interrupted with a question, so we never got motion to close the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
aye,
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, thank you.
all
Nice.
ayes dotted.
Nice catch. Thank you, Counselor Kelly. All right, good luck with your project.
Thank you.
Yep. The next item is 90-23, Ken Kraft and Regina Kozieskaya. I know I didn't get that right. Request to further extend non-conforming FAR at 6 Ferncroft Road. I'm going to start with Elisa from the Planning Department.
Okay, great. Let me just share my screen. So this is petition 7123 for 6 Ferncroft Road, special permit site plan approval. The zoning relief requested is to further extend non-conforming FAR for 3 smaller additions to the home on the basement and first floor levels. So when reviewing this request, the council should consider whether the proposed increase in the non-conforming FAR from 0.39 to 0.44, where 0.36 is the maximum allowed by right, is consistent with and not a derogation of the size, scale, and design of other structures in the neighborhood. The proposed increase in non-conforming FAR is not substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming structure is to the neighborhood. So just kind of showing the location of this property. It is on the corner of Beacon Street and Ferncroft in Waban. The neighborhood is primarily composed of single-family homes. It is just 1 block west of Cold Spring Park and the Newton Cemetery. And this is just showing the site plan, and you can see the access to the house is via Ferncroft Road. The driveway there would be repaved. The addition on the garage is shown to the north. You can see that proposed addition. And then the proposed addition on the south corner there is to the rear of the property. And they're fairly, small in terms of the footprint of the house. Here is just a look at the elevation. So this is the proposed front elevation for the property. You can see there's a proposed new garage that would be constructed and enlarged to accommodate the 2 cars. Let's see, the office addition on the basement level would be approximately 374 square feet. The first floor rear family room addition would be approximately 199 square feet, and the additional garage area would be 121 square feet. So this is just showing the north elevation, and here you can see kind of outlined in red is the addition showing the family room, and that's at the rear of the property. And that's just another perspective of that enlarged family room. And the basement, the additional basement level area would be below that. And here's just another perspective from the south elevation. Let's see. So just showing some photos of the area. So this is the existing property. You can see it has pretty substantial landscape screening from the front, and then also on the side where the addition would be located for the garage. And this is the location of the existing sunroom. That would be where the enlarged family addition would be located. And so we reviewed this with engineering. I know there was a few questions about stormwater, so we did ask for their feedback on stormwater. And they determined, just looking at the new stormwater regulations, that there was no additional permits required for this project under the stormwater regulations, and that further review wasn't required at this time. And then historic, in terms of their review, they determined the building and structure at 6 Ferncroft Road is historically significant, but the commission waived the delay of demolition for the front garage, rear sunroom, and partial basement. So these are, we shouldn't do that right now, right? Okay, sorry.
No, not now. Yep.
Okay, stop sharing.
Okay. Thank you very much. And who is here to speak on behalf of the petitioner or the petitioner themselves?
Chairperson Lipoff, this is Treff LaFleche from LDA Architecture and Interiors here to present.
Good evening. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, the Alyssa presented the facts of the case very well and showed the elevations. We do have some additional information if the committee would like to see it, but I think she presented the issues quite thoroughly and completely. So unless there are questions, I'm happy to,
Well, that's great. We've been going to planning first, so we don't duplicate presentations. And if that was good, then we will we'll come back to you with any questions. At this time, we'll go to the public. Mr. Warren, are there two people in the chamber here to speak on this item?
Yes, they are, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so let's have them come to the microphone, state their name and address. They've got 2 minutes. We're happy to hear from them.
Hi, thank you. Oh, is it on? Just a little closer. Okay, hello? Hi.
Yep, that's good.
Thank you very much for letting us speak. We actually have our engineer on the phone as well that would like to have him speak as well. So we are Prudence and Peter Rofe, owners of 12 Ferncroft Road, which abuts 6 Ferncroft Road, and we have actually co-written a letter to the Planning Committee as the Land Use Committee, along with other abutting neighbors located at 150 and 142 Gordon Road, and I believe the neighbor from 142 Gordon Road is on the phone as well and probably will speak. So just on behalf of the abutting neighbors, we're here to express our concern that the proposed construction at 6 Ferncroft will adversely affect the abutting and surrounding properties. The proposed construction, as you described, has a net increase of impervious surface of 399 square feet, additional foundation to support the enlarged garage, and expanded basement of 374 square feet. We believe the displaced surface and groundwater from the proposed construction will adversely affect the abutting and surrounding areas, which are located in a FEMA-designated flood zone that is characterized with a high water table, poor drainage, and prone to flooding. We also believe the fact that 6 Ferncroft Road sits at a higher elevation and has a rear yard that pitches towards abutting neighbors will also contribute to directing water to our property. So obviously construction will exacerbate that. We have, like I said, we've already have sent, in the letter that we sent to the Land Use Committee, we described the current water problems the abutting and actually surrounding neighbors have or are currently experiencing. So I'm not sure if you'll have had a chance to read it, but just to kind of give you context of, why we are concerned about this is, we actually constructed a new home in 2018. It's a conforming home. Within the FAR, we met all the ordinances and complied with city ordinances to capture stormwater. We actually have serious water issues, and our home requires a dual sump pump system which runs on average 26 hours a month to keep our basement dry. We've actually hired Creative Land and Water Engineering to actually design our home water mitigation system. They know the area very well. They know the abutting property and the soil conditions and the high water tables very well. And what they've concluded was that water was actually entering and flowing from the rear side of Ferncroft Road to the right front part of our property. So it's actually coming from 6 Ferncroft Road and coming into our property. We actually put in a mitigation system, and it was found to be insufficient, and because of that, we've had to actually increase 90 feet of the street storm drain so that we could actually connect our sump pump outflow to it, which has probably cost us in excess of like $65,000 to set up that system. We understand that the Crafts have a minor storm water management permit is not required for this construction because is not required for construction that adds less than 401 square feet of impervious surface. Mr. Kraft, in his construction, is adding 399 square feet. It's just 2 square feet short of meeting this requirement. And we're just asking the planning committee, the land use committee, that given the unique site conditions at 6 Ferncroft Road and the abutting neighbors, we feel that he should not be exempt from obtaining even a minor storm water management permit. We've actually hired Creative Land and Water Engineering to conduct an assessment, and their findings have validated our concerns. We are certainly supportive of our neighbors wanting to improve their home. We all benefit as neighbors, but obviously are concerned, and we certainly do not want that to be at the cost of it negatively impacting the abutting properties in terms of water. Water is indifferent to property lines, and the water displaced that we feel from the construction and as well as the surface runoff without remediation to remove it completely from the area would be a burden on the surrounding properties. And that's why we're asking a decision on the special permit be delayed until results from adequate soil and water study are publicly available with mitigation plans if necessary to ensure that 6 Ferncroft Road construction will have a negligible impact to abutting and surrounding neighbors. And I just wanted to say our neighbor Gil Rappaport and his wife Narit, they're owners of 150 Gordon Road that sits behind 6 Ferncroft Road. They unfortunately could not attend because they're in a 7-hour time zone distance, but they asked us to convey that they fully support the statements and the materials that we've provided to the Land Use Committee as well as the statements that we are making here. So thank you very much. We really very much appreciate your hearing our concerns.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Is there anybody else from the public that wishes to speak?
Yeah, hi, this is Jong Yang from 142 Gordon Road. Can I speak?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'm the neighbor diagonally abutting 6 Ferncroft Road. Since Prudence already talked about a water problem itself, I'd like to talk about a little bit of potential health issues. Well, as we are in the FEMA designated flooding zone, the basement humidity level in basement is pretty high. So I'm running a pretty high capacity dehumidifier all through the year, except for the winter, obviously, which draws 5.4 amperes and removing 74 pints per day. I have another one running, which is smaller one, but on the other side of the basement to prevent the mold from growing. So if the moisture level goes up even higher, then I may have to consider placing another dehumidifier. Well, mold issue may not be the only concern. Well, as the water displacement changes, the soil can get even wetter and get dry over and over again, and that can shift the foundation and crack it more easily. Well, radon gas can smear into the basement through those cracks, and we know that the radon level in Massachusetts is relatively high. Well, the EPA guideline is to keep less than 4 picocuries per liter for the indoor radon level. They recommend to keep it below 2 picocuries. Well, actually, a friend of mine in Lexington passed away at the age of early 40s due to lung cancer. I'm not sure if radon level was the major issue to her, but I consider the radon issue very seriously. So I have a radon meter placed in the basement and monitor it every now and then. The radon level in my basement is around or higher than 3 picocuries per liter without ventilation, which is still below the legal limit, but I'm running a window fan 24/7 all through the year and try to keep it around 1 picocuries per liter. Well, what I'm trying to say is that the water problem is not just a wet yard or basement flooding issue, but can also cause serious health issues. So I also kindly request the committee to delay the decision on the permit until a thorough water study is made. We greatly appreciate your kind considerations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else from the neighborhood? Anybody else from the public?
I would like to speak. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Excuse me?
No, somebody else was going to speak. Go ahead.
I don't think so. Why don't you go ahead?
Okay. So I'm
Name
Ken
and
Kraft,
address? Yep.
6 Ferncroft Road.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. You're the petitioner. Go ahead.
Yes. So I just wanted to say that, we're all challenged by water problems. We have sump pumps. Obviously, other people next to us have sump pumps. This is, part and parcel of what goes on in the neighborhood. As far as the construction, my recollection of the 2018 construction was that, in fact, that there was an enormous amount of water that was coming from 12 Ferncroft Road onto our property, and that that was a real issue, and there was an enormous amount of water that was built up during construction, and in my opinion was leaking over into our yard.
Okay. So you're referring to the first speaker's home?
Yes, the first speakers, yes.
That they built in 2018?
Correct.
Was that a tear down or?
Yes, it was. It was a tear down.
Of a home that had a smaller foundation?
It was, yes, the house was completely torn down, the foundation, they built a new foundation.
Okay. I mean, I so feel for everybody in this neighborhood. Over here in Ward 8, we have several low-lying areas that an intense rains flood. It's just a fact that there are many low-lying areas that have these issues. What everybody has to remember is everybody's homes contribute to the same problem. And we have to follow our rules and regulations. If this isn't big enough to rise to that level to have water remediation, that's what we're playing within. And everybody who tears a house down and builds a new one or puts a swimming pool in or does anything changes the water table, and everybody gets very nervous in the neighborhood, and I feel for you. But for us to shut down development in a neighborhood for good, because there is a perceived straw that breaks the camel's back, that's very hard for us to do. So we tried to follow the rules and regulations. Now, Mr. Kraft, you are a member of this neighborhood, and if by law you don't have to do remediation, but there may be some things as you expand your home that you could potentially do out of the goodness of your heart. But we can consider that. Mr. LaFleche?
Thank you, Mr. Lipoff. I just wanted to point out that we certainly are aware of the water problems that the abutter had experienced when I first became involved in the project. Mr. Kraft shared with me the history of that, and we've monitored the water on the site, and it seems to be relatively under control, that it has stabilized, that the stormwater collection system that the abutter installed as part of their project seems to have rectified the historical problem that Ken and Regina were experiencing in the northwest corner of their property. And we intentionally tried to keep the scale of this project quite surgical and small for the simple purpose of minimizing the net increase in impervious surface area as per the engineering regulations regarding stormwater collection. And that's why we are under the 400 square foot threshold, not requiring that. However, just as you've said, Ken and Regina are concerned about not exacerbating the situation, and there certainly our intent is to do this project in such a way that does not exacerbate the situation.
Yeah, I would just add to that we absolutely are responsible for whatever water is generated from our property, and we will take whatever measures are necessary to take care of that.
Okay, Mr. Deshang, did you speak already?
Not yet. I'm the engineer for the neighbors, and I don't know if they passed my report to you.
They did. We did receive your report. You're happy to speak. Go
Okay,
ahead.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, so Deshang Wang from Creative Land and Water Engineering. I'm the engineer, did the water remediation and mitigation system for 12 Ferncroft Road. And so I was brought in just a few days ago about the 6 Ferncroft Road expansion. So I'd probably like to ask the architect to clarify some of the facts. So this 399 impervious increase is calculated based on the expanded foundation footprint or based on the roof area, which have probably some overhang over the foundation.
Well, as you know, the regulation refers to the net increase of impervious surface area. And so that would include structures as well as driveways and walkways. And so what we have done is through our civil engineer, Everett Brooks and Company, they've calculated the net increase of the existing impervious surface area, the existing house, patios, walkways, and driveways, and compared it to the proposed change in the renovation. And we're basically expanding slightly on the garage, and the family room on the rear is expanding over the top of a pre-existing patio area. So that patio is already impervious surface area. We're just building over the top of it to some extent. The driveway is remaining pretty much as is. It's only widening in order to accommodate the slightly wider garage. And we eliminated a walkway that runs along the side of the house in favor of that slightly wider garage. So that overall, the result is a net increase over the pre-existing impervious surface area of that 399 square feet.
I guess I did get a quick, simple answer is the impervious was calculated based on the additions footprint of the house foundation or including the overhang of the roof. Yes or no?
Well, it follows the City of Newton engineering department's definition of how it's calculated.
I do not think that includes overhangs of a roof. Is that correct?
I think it does include the entire roof area because the roof, including the overhangs, is part of the impervious surface area.
And that was in your calculation?
Correct.
Okay, I think that's the question that's being asked.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just trying to stress that I rely on the civil engineer to do those calculations, and he is a very experienced civil engineer in the City of Newton,
right,
who does this all the time, and he knows the definition and the requirements of that calculation.
Understood.
And he stamps the certified survey documenting that calculation.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for just that's as the chairman summarized, is simple. All right, so then I'm going to follow up, assuming that's the correct. So the impact is obviously this neighborhood, as all most people living in the neighborhood are aware of, have a high water issue for their basement, and the surface water is kind of contributing, depending on how the surface water is managed. When you have the house expanded with their foundation, so which is in the water table, so the impact is going to displace that storage and pushing the groundwater around. So it will exacerbate the condition surrounding it, probably including the existing house themselves. And we are not so questioning a procedure, the right of the owner to do the work, just like we have done at the 12 Bancroft Road a few years ago. And so even the system was originally designed to work and overflow to the driveway, which that's why it was added another mitigation system. The city allowed the discharging point connected to the street. Okay, so the pumping system was still the original design, was adequate to safeguard that house. But discharging is very important not to negatively impact the neighbors. We could dump in that water in our backyard and let the water flow to either 6 or to 20, 24, downgraded all the neighbors, to causing them problem. As a responsible owner and as far as a design engineer, we didn't just dump in that water, as simple as that. So if you, the current owner kind of as stated out, originally we did discharge into the front, not to the backyard, because we know the backyard is upgraded side of the property, and then it will flow to 20 and other neighbors. And when we go into the front yard, it does impact the sidewalk a little bit. It overflows to the sidewalk. However, even that one, the neighbors was concerned, reported to the city. And as a result, the owner has to connect that discharge and overflow to the street drainage. So that totally eliminated any negative impact to the neighbors. So as a matter of that fact, we can analogy looking at the current situation. So we are not sure where, but I think there are some pumps currently discharging water to their backyard, which is upgrading to a few abutting properties. And we with the expansion of the basement and displacement of the water volume, they're likely going to pumping more water and then putting in the service and flowing to the neighbor. So we just, as the chairman questioned, and not questioned, so kind of recommended. So, and the owner also agreed, I appreciate that, they will properly take care of it. We would just like plan to really using the on-site groundwater and surface water data to demonstrate the mitigation or new routing is going to mitigate those impacts. That's one. And second, I'm not questioning the engineering department or judgment. If you're looking into your stormwater bylaw and the land disturbance, there's a section that if a construction requires a trench that requires dewatering, it also requires a minor stormwater permit. So I don't know if the chairman can get a clarification from the engineering department how to interpret that. So obviously this new addition with the basement is going to intrude into the groundwater table that requires dewatering during the construction. So therefore, in my reading, it should also require a minor stormwater permit for this proposed
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Temple and Ms. Wewell. Can we discuss what is necessary from engineering. It appears to me that they don't cross over the threshold to have the engineering that we typically have if it's a new property or if it rises to that threshold. What is engineering going to be doing here?
So I know Elisa spoke to John Daglian, the associate city engineer. Our reading of the ordinance was that this is under the threshold due to the 399 square feet. She confirmed that with Mr. Daglian, so engineering has no role in this permit due to the size and the scope of the project.
Okay, I understand the frustration that people have with that, but that is what we're looking at here. I'm going to go to, I think you're a counselor from the area, Counselor Downs.
Thank you, Chairman Lipoff. This is in our ward, and the Ward 5 counselors, my colleagues and I have been talking about this all weekend and trying to sort out what our roles are on the water issue. And you know, we're aware this is a very wet area and has a history of probably being fill. And we have been in communications with the engineering department, sorting out our new stricter stormwater ordinance and how it might have applied had this been a little bit larger. In talking to engineering, it sounds like they will be reviewing this as part of the special permit process anyway, when they wouldn't normally look at it if it were a by right project. Because it is under the 400 square foot limit and less than 5,000 square foot of disturbed surface. So, and I was reassured that if something really needs to be done, they will make a recommendation to the landowners.
So engineering will be reviewing this and they will make recommendations if necessary, if they find necessary.
That was my understanding in a conversation with Lou Taverna earlier today.
Okay, that's a little different than what we just heard. Ms. Sandoval?
So yes, my understanding is that, well, it's really ISD who, that is the department that is going to be working with the homeowner on the, you know, the building permit and the process, and that if there are any issues flagged during that process, they would be brought to the engineering division. So it's not that that's like going to happen no matter what, but it's that those two departments work closely together, and that ISD is very familiar with the stormwater regulations as well. And so they will be looking at those and reviewing those as they go through the building permit process with the applicant.
Okay, that's not full surety that this is going to, you know, but we're following our rules. Councilor Laredo.
So, Mr. Chair, I appreciate we follow the letter of the law, but we also, as a special permit granting authority, have considerable discretion in what we do here. It's clear that Mr. LaFleche and his clients have designed this at 398 or 399 square feet. I am assuming that number wasn't reached arbitrarily, but was probably, I would assume, an effort to avoid having the stormwater review triggered. I just can't imagine that level of coincidence otherwise.
Well, I would like to suggest, this is Ken Kraft, that is absolutely untrue, that we designed this on the basis of what was felt to be appropriate. We were not trying to avoid, I've never had a conversation with Mr. LaFleche about the numbers of square feet vis-a-vis the
Mr. LaFleche presumably knows the ordinance, right, Mr. LaFleche?
Yes, that is true, Councilor Laredo. I am aware of the requirement, but I'm also aware that the project does have to go through both ISD and engineering department review. And, you know, as a working professional, I think I and any property owner has the right to follow the regulations and expect that the regulations are applied consistently and without bias, so that people and those professionals that advise them know how to design and advise their clients to achieve approval through the regulatory process.
So Mr. LaFleche, your clients are not in this business, but you are. You're aware of the regulation. I presume there was some thought given to whether or not you would meet that threshold when you were doing this work. Is that right?
I agree with what Mr. Kraft said, is that we designed this first and foremost to meet their needs, and not in order to avoid the engineering department threshold. I think the implication that we did it with that as a primary goal is incorrect.
I didn't say a primary goal, but at least you'll agree with me that you're aware of the rule, which you're entitled to. You're aware of it when you put together a 398 square foot addition rather than a 401 square foot addition.
Well, look, let me just say.
Is that accurate?
Well,
hold on 1 second, Mr. Kraft. Hold on, Mr. LaFleche.
Is that accurate, Mr. LaFleche?
I feel like you're trying to pinpoint me here on something, and I think it's fair to say you are.
Well, hold on. Let me step in here for a second, okay? Councilor Laredo, pull back on the litigation. You're not at work, okay? Pull back for a second.
Councilor Lipoff, I'll move on. Please. Okay.
Move on, but listen, we have rules and regulations, we have laws, and for somebody to follow them and to be accused of using them to get something that they want, in just below, we can't do business that way. We can't legislate that way. If people follow the rules, they follow the rules. Continue.
Councilor Lipoff, I agree with that, okay? But here's the but. Special permits are not a matter of right. We have considerable discretion about whether we allow a special permit or not. We have considerable discretion. We have to consider whether it is going to be harmful to the abutters. That's part of our consideration here. And I am concerned when I'm hearing about groundwater runoff. I'm not comforted by the fact that the department may look at this or might look at this. I want assurance that the water is going to be kept on site. And then I have no problem with this. I think these folks should be able to go ahead and do their work. It's a very reasonable project.
So
that's not the issue.
When
but I want to make sure
I know
that the water's on site.
All right, let Mr. LaFleche talk. Go ahead.
So we have absolutely no problem if the committee wishes to condition approval that we work with the engineering department in a way in which satisfies both their regulations and any historical information that they may have about this property or the surrounding properties in order to satisfy the engineering department that we're meeting their regulations and the letter of the law. I just didn't feel it was my obligation to speculate as to whether or not the engineering department would require this or not. Once we knew that we didn't exceed the threshold, I really can't recommend to my client that they unilaterally install something and spend the money if it's not required. If the committee wants to condition this in some way so that we explore it further to the engineering department's satisfaction, I think we would be willing to do that.
Look, I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm personally not asking you to do anything that's not necessary, okay? No one's asking necessary, but we have an obligation as a land use committee to consider not only the petitioner's ability and right to improve their property, which is good. We want people to improve their properties. This is a good project. It's not, other than the water issue, I think this would sail through. But the water issue is real from what we're gathering from 3 immediate abutters and a professional. So we just need to make sure we address it. That's all.
And
let me correct that. It's 2 immediate abutters. It's not 3.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kraft. We can get there. It's how we get there, and it's a little stylistic Councilor Laredo, and that's what I was trying to get at. Mr. Deshane, please put your hand down. We've heard from you and we've gotten a letter from you, okay? Thank you.
Councilor Lipoff, I'm open to creative solutions here, but I'm not personally comfortable with, don't worry about it, it'll be taken care of the process. That's not good enough for a council order for me. So just so we're clear on that, thank you.
I would just like to say very quickly that I am absolutely enthusiastic about any solution that solves the problem that may present itself. I have no problem with it.
Thank you. Originally, when I said out of the goodness of your heart about 20 minutes ago, that was a little bit of a foreshadowing to figuring out a way to get this done that gives some security to the neighbors that's outside of the letter of the law. And that's something that I was trying to walk towards. Do any of the other counselors have any comments? Anybody, anything to say? Any other neighbors that we missed?
We have Councilor Lucas.
Councilor Lucas, go ahead, Councilor Lucas.
Thank you. To the petitioner, or Mr. LaFleche, there are a lot of trees on the, I guess that's the right side abutting 12 Ferncroft. Are those staying on the property, or are you removing those?
Go ahead, Trev. Go ahead.
The intention is that they remain. Now, there's no question that there may need to be a bit of surgical removal of limbs and/or an occasional tree related to access for the installation of the new foundation. But there's not any goal to wholesale remove all the trees.
Not at all. No, we want to keep those trees. I mean, that's
exactly right. The buffer. The buffer is as important to us as it probably is to the neighbor directly to the north.
Councilor, I was curious why you were asking that question.
I'm sorry, what?
I was curious about the question about the trees. What I'm wondering what your concern is, or what.
I was wondering if you were removing any trees.
It's just a question. It's one we quite often ask just to understand the full nature of your project.
Because that also plays into the water runoff. The trees will help keep the water on your property and not go into your neighbor's property. So that's why I was asking that question.
That's a great point. I think that's a great point. And again, we want to retain these trees for sure.
Yep.
No question.
And does that go for the trees in the for the rear addition?
Yes, there's no plan to remove any trees in the rear.
Okay. All right. Well, all right. Thanks. I'll leave it there for now. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Downs.
Thank you. As far as if we can come to an understanding here, I'm ready to close the public hearing and move approval on this.
Okay. Anybody else before we close the public hearing? Councilor Laredo.
So I want to, before we close the public hearing, I want to have a better understanding of what the proposed solution is here to make sure that these folks get to build their project, but that we appropriately make sure we're not causing undue harm to the abutters.
Mr. Temple, can you give us an idea of what we are allowed to do here?
Sure. It sounds like the petitioner would be comfortable agreeing to a condition that requires them to submit a plan for review and approval prior to the building permit to the engineering department, and then potentially to prepare and submit a stormwater management plan for review and approval if engineering deems that necessary.
Of course, absolutely.
Okay.
So we can work on, we can fine tune that language, but that would be the contours.
Yeah, could I just, excuse me,
Go ahead.
Chairman Lipoff,
Yes.
Could I just clarify one thing? I think what I feel is in the fair and best interest to this particular issue is that we consult with the engineering department and ask them, given the fact that we are under the threshold, and whatever history or information they have on this particular property and neighborhood, let's get their counsel as to what do they think we might want to explore, what additional information might we want to gather that would lead to understanding what's the right solution here. I don't think it would be fair to presume that the only correct solution is some stormwater collection system based on a minimal amount of increase in this impervious surface area. If that's ultimately what is necessary, I think we would be, of course, happy to do that, but I don't want to presume that that is the only answer here.
Mr. Chair.
Councilor Loreto, can you please wait to be acknowledged? Thank you. Mr. Temple, can you respond to that?
Yeah, I think that's fine, and essentially what I was laying out, an initial review, consultation with engineering to see what engineering will require, and then to do whatever it is engineering requires.
Mr. LaFleche?
Yes, I think that is entirely appropriate.
That's right. And this is the end game that I was looking for. Councilor Markowitz.
I think you just answered my question, but let me say it just because, make sure I'm straight. My concern was in writing this condition that we could have a situation where potentially one side or the other, well, I guess the neighbors, the abutters, would be in a position where they would not necessarily have to agree to anything. And while I think they do have a valid concern here, I want to make sure that whatever we write is reasonable, so you don't have a condition where there's no, if you potentially open up to, well, you don't have to ever say you're satisfied if in fact you're not satisfied, just because you don't like it. But I think the condition, if the condition says, if we're willing, everyone's willing to abide by the fact that effectively engineering's decision here, if I'm understanding this correctly, is the binding point, then I think we can write a condition that says that, and I think that's probably the best we can do. I hope I was clear there. I'm just trying to get out of this, no way you can ever satisfy a condition type thing, and then people are going to be back here or be in litigation or something.
I think we have an understanding from the law department, the petitioner. I think it protects, it gives some surety above what the letter of the law has, because we're being sensitive to an area that has a history of water issues, and we're trying to figure that out.
And I think Mr. Temple, I'm good, because I think Mr. Temple,
yes,
knowing Mr. Temple, he'll be careful not to create allow a trap like that to occur.
Thank you. Councilor Kelly?
Just very briefly, that's what I was going to say also, but I want to add one more thing. I think that Mr. Temple's intention, I totally agree with, and Mr. LaFleche and Mr. Kraft and Regina seem to agree to that. So I trust that when we see this in writing next time, it will be something we're all happy with. I would just like to get back to a point that Councilor Loreto made earlier that I agree with, which is that typically, I agree with Chair Lipoff that we leave drainage issues to engineering. However, given the leeway we have in special permits and the importance that sometimes drainage has on certain projects with abutters, we as representatives of the constituents, neighbors, and abutters do sometimes really owe it to them for us to pay some attention to it. So I'm glad we've had this conversation, and I'm glad we've come to the result we have tonight. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Councilor Kelly. Councilor Loreto?
Thank you. And I do think this is a good resolution. I have one suggestion. I don't think it should be, if it's going to be some kind of consultation language, I think we need to be a little bit more directive here and make sure that engineering is the one making the decision, that engineering's decision is going to be binding. Fully agree with Councilor Markowitz that you don't want to give neighbors a veto. But on the other hand, I don't want a situation where engineering recommends something and the petitioner decides not to do it. So I think we just have to craft the language carefully. I'm not suggesting these petitioners wouldn't do it, but we have an obligation to write our council orders in a certain way. I think you can draft that appropriately, Mr. Temple. So thank you, and thank you all for some constructive suggestions here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Loreto. Last word, Mr. LaFleche.
Thank you, Chairman Lipoff. I'm in agreement with this as well. I do just want to clarify that I really would prefer, and I think Ken and Regina would prefer, to rely on the expertise of the engineering department, that they will request us to do whatever they feel necessary for them to come to some conclusion. Is there an issue here or is there not an issue? And then work with us to determine what's the right solution once they determine that. But I would really like, I think just in terms of expectation on performance and adhering to some sort of regulatory body that has that body of information and can apply it consistently, I would like to rely on the engineering department's guidance here.
Okay. You know, I'm not an engineer. I would hope that they would look at the baseline of what it is now and look at what you're doing and judge it solely on that.
That's right.
And not try to solve the entire problem for the whole neighborhood.
Right.
Okay. We have a motion to close the public hearing from Councillor Downs. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? It is closed. We have a motion to approve by Councillor Downs. Can we take a look at the council order, please? Ms. Sandoval?
Hold on a second. Let me just to the next slide. So the findings are the proposed increase in the non-conforming FAR from 0.39 to 0.44, where 0.36 is the maximum allowed by right, is consistent with and not a derogation of the size, scale, and design of other structures in the neighborhood. The proposed increase in non-conforming FAR is not substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming structure is to the neighborhood. The additional square footage related to the increase in FAR is spread across 3 additions and does not add significantly to the overall scale of the existing structure. The proposed additions are unobtrusive, minimally visible from the street, and complement the architecture of the existing structure. Should I go to next?
Mm-hmm.
So for the conditions, we have the plan referencing condition, the pest control condition, the standard building permit condition, and the standard final inspection certificate of occupancy condition. And then we would add the the review and approval by the engineering division of the plan submitted by the applicant, with the understanding that if engineering requires, they would also submit a stormwater plan, is my understanding.
Great, thank you. Yes, so we will have language that we've all discussed tonight that we want in this council order from Mr. Temple, and we will see it in our packet, but we all expect that, and I hope the neighborhood understands what we've done tonight in helping protect the situation and make it as best as it can be. I thank the petitioner for having an open mind and working with us as well. Mr. Warren, please call the roll.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Councillor Bowman.
Aye.
Councillor Downs.
Aye.
Councillor Greenberg.
Aye.
Councillor Kelly.
Aye.
Councillor Laredo.
Aye.
Councillor Lipoff.
Aye.
Councillor Lucas.
Aye.
Councillor Markowitz.
Aye.
The motion carries.
Good luck with your project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Take care. The next item of the night is 89-23, John and Kylie Mills, request to exceed FAR at 49 Lenox Street. Mr. Glebe, you will start.
Absolutely. Okay, so the petition is seeking special permit approval for a series of modifications that will raise the ridgeline and increase the roof pitch and construct two-story additions on either side of the dwelling at 49 Lenox. So the relief that's needed is to allow the project to exceed the allowed FAR, which really to increase the FAR from 0.30 to 0.49, where 0.34 is the maximum allowed by right. That would be an increase from the existing 2,900 square feet, bringing it up to 4,769 square feet, a net increase of 1,872 square feet. The criteria the council should consider whether the proposed expanded structure with an increased FAR of 0.49 or 0.34 is the maximum allowed by right would be consistent with and not in derogation of the size, scale, and design of other structures in the neighborhood. Here's an aerial map showing the site at the northwest corner of Lenox and Highland, and the site is in green. Here's the site plan tuned a bit with Lenox on the bottom, Highland on the left. So this is really showing both the existing and proposed conditions. The existing house outline is showed in the slightly hash marked outline. The two additions, one on each side, the one on the right face would replace a attached garage. You can see the bigger footprint, hopefully, in bold. That's on the right-hand side from Lenox, and on the left, a one-story sunroom would be replaced by a larger footprint addition, which instead of being one story would be 2 stories. So here's the existing elevations. The front along Lenox is in the top left-hand corner. You can see the garage to the right-hand side, the sunroom to the left. The other elevations kind of going clockwise from there. The left side is on the upper right of the drawing, the right side down here, and the rear shown in the lower left. That's existing. The proposed modifications would have this design. So I mentioned before, the roof line being higher and being more steep. 3 doghouse type dormers on the front, and really what's increasing the FAR are the 2 additions, one on either side. So the one on the right remains a garage, 2 cars, and you can see the bulk of the additional living space on top of that. Similarly, on the left-hand side, where that 1-story sun porch or sun room would become a 2-story section. The left and right sides shown on the right of the drawing. This is all pretty much, I didn't bother putting the outline in because most of those 2 elevations would be almost completely changed by what's proposed. And you do see the higher, steeper roof line in those 2 with the 2-story additions as well. On the lower left, you have the rear elevation with the back of the garage extension on the left-hand side and the back of the sunroom area addition on the right hand of that drawing. Just for context and photos, this is taken from the corner pretty much of Highland, which is on the left-hand side, and Lenox on the right. So you see that sunroom that would be replaced. You see the existing addition of the property with nicely maintained lawn areas, shrubs, and trees. So now going kind of, this is from Highland, in effect looking across the property toward Lenox. And again, you see the lot, you see the sun porch that would be replaced. And then to go to the other side, so this is from Lenox looking towards Highland. To the left, this is the garage that would be replaced on that side with a larger footprint garage and additional living space on top of that. And we can see the roof line of the main portion of the house, which would be replaced by a steeper and higher roof line. That's all we have for now. Hopefully can answer any questions the committee might have.
Thank you very much. And who is here from the petitioner?
I am.
Hello, Miss Silverstone, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good, go ahead. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, good evening. So I'm Lee Silverstone, and my client John Mills, the owner of 49 Lenox, is on with us tonight as well. As Mike described quite well, the project consists of an addition to a 2-story Garrison Colonial home, 49 Lenox Street. Actually, let me share my screen. So
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, can you see?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thanks. The owners, John and Kylie Mills, have lived here for 4 years, and they recently had their 3rd child and want to remain in the neighborhood and adapt their house to their needs of their growing family. And they want to work with embellishing the existing architectural features of the home, but also increase the square footage and expand the footprint so that it blends in with the surrounding homes in the neighborhood. Here you can see the lot. As Mike described, it's a corner lot, and which you see more on the survey. You can see that some of the challenges of the lot were that it's an SR1, which has very deep setbacks. It's a very small lot. The lot coverage and open space are also limited because of the square foot of the lot, and it's a corner lot. So we tried to work as best we could with what we had. The expansion opportunities really existed only on the 2 sides because of the required setback here. The existing driveway was here. So we really tried to maximize, as much as we could with what we had without exceeding lot coverage and open space requirement. We also raised the roof of the existing home to be able to get better ceiling height on the 2nd floor. And with the additions on the 2 sides and with the context of the neighborhood, we just felt that the higher roof line really just improved the proportions as well with the rest of the homes on the street. So here you can see some more photos of the existing house. 2-story, quite simple, beautiful stone here on the 1st floor. Here's the garage that we would like to expand and build on top of. This is the sun porch, again, that we'd like to expand and build on top of. And just to give you a sense, here are the neighboring homes. He's 49 Lenox, so this is really all along the street. This is what you see. So we really feel that expanding this house is very much in keeping with the homes on the street. And in addition to that, we have lots of letters of support from these neighbors, especially 41 Lenox, who's right next door and most impacted by the project, gave us a nice letter, which if you like, we can read at the end of the presentation. So here are just the plans, which I think you saw with Michael, but basically here's the existing basement. Here's the proposed basement with the garage above. Here's the sun porch existing, and here's going to be, we'll do a full basement under the new addition. So the footprint isn't growing by that much on either side. Here's the existing 1st floor. Here's a proposed 1st floor. Again, bigger sunroom, bigger garage. 2nd floor, we're building on top of that existing sunroom, putting a master bedroom, primary bedroom on top of that, creating a master bathroom. And then on this side, creating an in-law suite above the garage. Here's the roof plan showing the dormers that we're adding on the front, which I think will really be a nice addition to the house to sort of raise the impact of the house on the street. Here you can see the proposed and existing elevations. We really love the stonework of the existing home, so we would like to bring that into the addition around the new garage doors and into the sun porch. Still, again, trying to keep the feel of a sun porch on the base and just putting the addition on top. Here you can see the dormers, the addition of a front portico. Here's the existing right elevation, dormer on the side. And then here we've got the rear elevation. Again, bringing the stone around the back, We, really wanted to avoid this being like one long box. So we tried to do some interesting roof lines above the garage, made the dormer here to break it up, kept the feel of the sun porch here. And then here you can see the side elevation facing Highland on the corner. And here this is what we showed historic. They liked the project as well. And this just shows a lot of the materials that we proposed to use. The stone at the base, the roof, Pella windows, carriage doors. And here are some of the letters that we got for support from the neighbors, which I'm happy to read, or you can sort of view them here. So yeah, that's it. Happy to take any questions if you like.
Great, thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody from the neighborhood that wishes to speak on this, from the public, on this petition? Raise your hand. I will call on you. I don't see anybody. I'll take it into the council. Comments, questions? Anybody? Councillor Kelly?
Oh, I was going to wait, but nobody else has their hand up. So, oh, there they go. Well, I'll just start then by saying, and then back off, and I'll close it out when we look for some motions. I think it's a very nice project. I think it fits very well into the neighborhood. I attended the Newton Historic Commission meeting, sat through the whole thing, particularly to hear how they handled this project, which is in my ward and my former neighborhood. And when the time is right, depending on the other comments that come, I would be happy to make a motion to close the public hearing and to make a motion for approval.
Thank you, Councillor Laredo.
This one's pretty easy to me. Great project. They talked to the neighbors are happy. As everything Councillor Kelly said, let's approve it.
Great. Councillor Bowman, are you going to kumbaya on this one?
I'm just going to say this is a really beautiful project. I felt like I needed to raise my hand because I really felt, that the homeowners and architects should be commended for doing such a beautiful job on this. So, and, kudos for getting the letters of support. So I'm prepared to vote yes on this.
Absolutely. I agree with all of those comments. We have a motion by Councillor Kelly to close the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Public hearing is closed. Can we take a look at a council order?
Yes, but we will need the petitioner to stop sharing the screen.
Could you please stop? Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Silverstone, okay.
Okay. Oh, hang on. Here we go. Okay, so just one finding, whether that the expanded structure with that FAR of 0.59 would be consistent with a non-derogation of the size, scale, and design of other structures, as there are similarly scaled and designed dwellings throughout the neighborhood. Section 3.19, and then conditions. The standard ones, plans, building permit, and inspection CO, plus the pest control condition due to the demo portion of the project. That's all.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion to approve by Councillor Kelly. Mr. Warren, please call the roll.
Councillor Bowman.
Aye.
Councillor Downs.
Aye.
Councillor Greenberg.
Aye.
Councillor Kelly.
Aye.
Councillor Laredo.
Aye.
Councillor Lipoff.
Aye.
Councillor Lucas.
Aye.
Councillor Markowitz.
Aye.
The motion carries.
Great, thank you. Good luck with your project.
Thanks so much. Good night.
All right, take care. Last item of the night, 92-23, Melissa Fang and Andrew Hargens. Request to amend special permit 480-18 to allow a retaining wall exceeding 4 feet in height and a setback at 44 Ballard Street. Ms. Sandoval?
Hold on a second. Let me just share my screen. So this is petition number 9223 for 44 Ballard Street, a special permit site plan approval to amend special permit 480-18 to allow a series of previously constructed retaining walls at 44 Ballard Street. And that is the zoning relief that is requested to allow the retaining wall exceeding 4 feet within a setback. So the criteria to consider when reviewing this request, the council should consider whether the specific site is an appropriate location for the proposed series of retaining walls greater than 4 feet in height within a setback, that the proposed series of retaining walls greater than 4 feet in height within a setback will adversely affect the neighborhood. The proposed series of retaining walls greater than 4 feet in height within a setback will create a nuisance or serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians. Access to the site over streets is appropriate for the types and numbers of vehicles involved. So this is just a map showing the location of 44 Ballard Street. It is at the corner of Ballard Street and Glendale Road. It is it's within a single family residence zone in Newton Center, and the area is predominantly occupied by single family residences. Here it is showing, this is the site plan from the original approval, special permit approval in 2000, I'm sorry, it should say 2018. But the retaining walls here were noted to be a maximum of 3 feet in height. You can see where the arrow is pointing, and the retaining walls in the setback here were originally proposed to be a maximum of 3 feet in height, which would have been allowed by right. So the difference between that site plan and the revised site plan is that the revised site plan has the retaining walls in the setback that are over 4 feet in height. And
Ms. Sandoval,
yes.
can you tell us exactly how high the walls are now?
Yes, the walls reach a maximum cumulative height of 4.8 feet.
Thank you. Continue.
Sure. So there could be some changes when they relocated the garage and they added to the structure, adding an accessory apartment. There is a fairly steep grade from the garage to the bordering property. It slopes down quite a bit. So it could be that when they went in, to the site to construct walls, that there might have been some adjustments that needed to be made. However, this was something that was caught during the at the certificate of occupancy sign off, that it was noted that there was a difference in the site plan. So that's why we're here today.
Okay, thank you. And we'll go to Mr. Sachs. I will say that to my fellow councilors here, we often get our backs up when we find out something's different and than was allowed. We've had some instances where there have been 12-foot walls and things that were done clearly with the knowledge that they should not be doing it. This one, upon my review, looks like something was adjusted a little bit at the end, and we still want people to come in front of us, but I think there are different gradations, no pun intended, of how these things happen, and that's just my 2 cents. Mr. Sachs? Unmute. Mr. Sachs, unmute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
So if you go to the that last site plan that you showed us, yeah, right there, I have to believe that it's so close that maybe we actually moved this garage and positioned it, so it's a fairly complicated project but I think that the mason might have actually built the wall on the, you set a foundation and build a wall, and then you build it against a chalk line, and maybe they put it on the wrong side of the line because it almost straddles the thickness of the wall. But we did go through all of our inspections, passed everything, and there was nothing to be gained by, there's no advantage to doing this or anything like that. I would say that the walls are beautifully constructed. I think there's some pictures of this in this application, correct? Michael? There are some site pictures of the walls.
Yeah, excuse me. I have a few pictures if I can share, so Peter can explain.
If you'd like to, Ms. Sandoval, if you could stop sharing.
Sure.
Sorry, I didn't present myself. I'm Federico Arellano. I'm working with Peter Sachs.
There you go. So that's the wall right there, the short one, and the other wall over here is to the right where the card is the wall that contributes to the overall height of 4.8, and the 4.8 is really at the closest corner that you see of the stone. It kind of slopes up towards the street, and yeah, there. So that's a fairly consistent diagram of. I mean, it was very close. It's been finished beautifully. I have no excuses for it, but it's just one of those things that happened, and that's why we're here in order to get to finalize the permit and to ask for your to request your approval of the situation. I think the clients did a masterful job with the stone walls. They're very beautifully done. So I don't really have anything else to add to this.
That's
so
fine.
I'll take questions.
We got it. Thank you. Okay. Anybody from the neighborhood wish to speak about this? I wouldn't think so. Anybody from the council? Councilor Laredo?
It's my ward. I see absolutely nothing wrong with this whatsoever. And I think Chair Lipoff, you framed the question we always need to ask, which is, would we have approved this in its initial form? And at least to me, I can see absolutely no reason we would not have. I do think, furthermore, this does not at least appear to be anything other than human error, which, while I understand we're not supposed to take into account as a factor, does, I think, at times at least is a consideration. So I'm ready to move in favor of this whenever my colleagues are ready.
Great, thank you. Councilor Kelly?
I will vote in favor of it too, but I appreciate Chair Lipoff starting out by saying we don't really like it when people come asking for forgiveness rather than permission. And I also appreciate Mr. Sachs saying, he's willing to look at or speculate how this happened and no excuses. Of course, I understand how when you're on the site, things do happen, but you just measure the wall and go, oh gosh, we're 8 inches over what we needed to be. And I wish that someone had seen that sooner and come back sooner. And that's the kind of thing we learn about going forward. But I have no problem with it. We would have probably approved it as it was. It is a lovely wall. And I'm ready to vote too, but I don't like it when people come having already built something that is out of compliance with what was approved. So I hope we see less and less of this as we go forward.
So noted, Councilor Kelly. Okay, we have a motion to close the public hearing from Councilor Laredo. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The public hearing is closed. Do we need to take a look at an order on this?
I can share my
Yes.
screen.
There's new zoning relief with this one.
Excuse me?
I said yes, there is new zoning relief associated with
Okay,
this one.
okay, so we'll
Okay.
take a look at the council order.
Okay. Okay, so the findings are the specific site is an appropriate location for the proposed series of retaining walls greater than 4 feet in height within a setback due to topography of the specific site. The amendment to Council Order 48018, allowing the proposed series of retaining walls greater than 4 feet in height within a setback will not adversely affect the neighborhood as the walls are located away from the street and are minimally visible. The amendment to Council Order 48018, allowing the proposed series of retaining walls greater than 4 feet in height within a setback will not create a nuisance or a serious hazard to vehicles or pedestrians. And access to the site over streets is appropriate for the types and numbers of vehicles involved because the driveway and parking configuration remain unchanged. And then the conditions, we have the standard plan referencing condition. We are asking for the updated site plan showing the retaining walls and heights. There will be an engineering review. I think that is standard with this the special permit, the standard building permit condition, final inspection certificate of occupancy condition, and we are adding a operations and management plan condition as well as a recommendation from engineering to have a certification of the installation of the retaining walls as part of this.
Okay.
What does a certification of the retaining wall mean?
If I'm going to the language of the order, I can
Yeah, and
find
I
that.
think Elisa spoke to John Daglian about this, so they did not review the walls at building permit, so they can't certify that these were constructed in accordance with the City of Newton standards. So that's what the certificate from the project engineer would
Oh.
give assurance
Oh,
to.
okay, I understand.
Okay.
An affidavit of structure.
Yes,
Okay.
it says it's an affidavit of the engineer on record.
That'd be me.
Councilor Laredo, do you have your hand up?
I do, Mr. Chair, just a process question. I'm going to channel my inner Councilor Baker. A question for the law department. Are we going to create a single council order here, or how are you going to do this? I know meaning in combination with the prior special permit.
I believe this is Katie. So I believe we took the old order, carried it forward, and we just are going to replace the site plan
Got
because
it.
all of the other plans would be the same, like the elevations of the carriage housing. So it will be one order.
That's my only question, because I know we've tried to go to that as a matter of process, so it's easier for future purchases of the property to have a consolidated order in place. That's all. All
Yeah,
right, that's great. I'm all-
whenever we can.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. All set, Mr. Chair. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we've got everything here? Yes, we do. All right, Mr. Warren, please call the roll.
Counselor Bowman,
Aye.
Counselor Downs,
Aye.
Counselor Greenberg,
Aye.
Counselor Kelly,
Aye.
Counselor Laredo,
Aye.
Counselor Lipoff,
Aye.
Counselor Lucas,
Aye.
Counselor Markowitz.
Aye.
The motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much. That concludes our business, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night, all.
Take care.
Good luck tomorrow, Mr. Chair.